Welcome. Welcome to the stream. It's August 8th, 2024. I am the Go2Chef, and this is the live stream. Anyways, as I was mentioning, welcome to the live stream. I am the Go2Chef, and as always, as I've mentioned in shows previously, that a few of you have watched, so thank you very much, is that I don't like to waste a lot of time. My goal is to try and wrap these things up pretty quickly. So hopefully, get some good viewers along the way. And just to kind of give everyone a heads up, chat is indeed open today. So I hope everyone that ends up watching gives me some good comments. Try to answer some questions along the way. All right. So now that we're here at this point, we'll go ahead and I'm going to give everyone a couple minutes to show up, kind of give them a chance to get settled in here a little bit, and then we'll go ahead. What we're going to talk about today on the show is I've got 10 interesting, well, at least I find them interesting. I got 10 interesting food history facts. I got a recipe to share for everyone today. And then I also want to open up for Q&A, and if I don't have any questions, um, we'll go ahead and end up closing it out. So, like I said, give everyone a chance here to kind of catch this stream and show up. We'll see what goes on. Now, what's really going to be interesting with these 10 food facts that are historical, right? Some of it you may have heard, some of it you may not have heard. Um, and welcome to everyone that has just recently shown up live. I am the Go2Chef, and I have today some 10 historical food facts that I think you might find interesting. I'm gonna have a recipe that I'm gonna share for everybody, and also I'd like to open up. Chat is open for some Q&A that I'd like to be able to answer along the way. So welcome. All right. We'll get started with the historical facts here, right? So, uh, you know, if you're listening to this and thinking that my audio is like really far away, do not worry. I don't currently have a microphone outside of what is on my camera and computer. So I do apologize for that. I'm working on getting a new one. I ended up accidentally breaking it when I was trying to set up the little rig for it, and that was not one of my brightest moments. So it was pretty funny to well, kind of frustrating. It was a decent camera, or decent microphone. Accidentally broke it. Totally hilarious to me at the end of the day. So we'll start. First intriguing food history fact that y'all might like is: did you know that ketchup was originally a fish sauce? So ketchup's history traces back to a fermented fish sauce called K-chup. And it's actually from the region in Southeast Asia. It actually wasn't until around the 19th century that tomatoes were added. And funny enough, um, it was actually the northern Italians that added tomatoes to this fish sauce. You'd think, I thought it would be something that would be kind of royalty, but no, actually, it was quite the opposite on that one. So, that it's interesting. I'm not sure how many of us use ketchup on fish anymore. I personally don't, but I'm sure there's somebody out there. Not saying it's wrong. I don't do it personally. Now, here's an interesting food history fact. This one is something that I did on a uh, fun food trivia video not too long ago, and it was the sandwich, right? And where the sandwich got its origin. It was actually named because of John Montague, who was known as the Earl of Sandwich. Which, if you're like the Earl of Sandwich, well, that was a old region it was an old timey region back in medieval Europe. So, bless the old monarchy for giving us something kind of interesting there. But John Montague, the Earl of Sandwich, was such a prolific gambler that he didn't want to waste time to use utensils to eat his meals. So he would ask for his meat to be placed between two pieces of a loaf of bread, right? Not traditional what we know nowadays. You know, it was like a round loaf. They'd cut it and they put the meat, and that's how you'd eat it. And because he is Earl of Sandwich, that's how it got his name. So, thank your thank your gambling addicts that we have a sandwich named after this gentleman because he was too lazy to eat with a fork and a knife. All right. So, chat is open. Hello, Easton. Nice to have you here. Now, can anyone tell me, you know, if they know whether or not chocolate was once used as currency? Anyone wants to? I'll leave that open in the chat here real quick. Give you a moment to answer because I think the result might shock you a little bit. Anyways, well, chocolate was actually originally once used as currency. See, the ancient Aztecs actually valued cocoa so much that actually it was used as a form of currency, which is interesting because that kind of stuff grows on trees. Where later on in history, it was gold that was used as a form of currency. So I'm not entirely sure what led them to using cocoa, and I'm not entirely sure how hard it is to, or how rare it is to actually grow cocoa beans. But that's another little interesting food history fact for you there. Now, here's another interesting food history fact for you. This one you might find interesting, and I hope you go and look actually right above here. Right, click on this later. You'll see I did a fun food trivia on this very next thing too. It's actually about our origin of carrots. See, nowadays we notice carrots are orange in color, most of them. And it wasn't until more recently, within the last few years, that carrots, we started seeing the different varieties with like the purples and I think I saw a red one the other day. There's yellows that are considered golden, if you will. So we've seen a lot of different carrots show up recently. But in fact, before the early 1000s, right? Uh, Not sure how we're all supposed to say that, actually sidetrack here, when we see, we call it 1999, 2020, 2022, et cetera, et cetera, right? What's year 1011 called? And somebody, I saw a meme said 11D, 11T, 11D. Yes, they used three. It was hilarious. I did not make this up. Anyways, so carrots were actually originally purple. They were purple, white, or yellow, and they were cultivated originally in Afghanistan. Um, it wasn't until the early 1300s, I believe, that the orange variant came about, and it was developed by Dutch farmers to honor the Dutch royal family, the House of Orange Nassau. So, yeah, and then shortly before that, shortly after that, the United Kingdom and other parts of Europe started actually seeing the carrots pop up more often. So, a little fun food history for you on the origin of carrots. For those of you who just joined, carrots actually originated in Afghanistan. Hello there, Lucas. So, yes, carrots originated in Afghanistan. All right, and they were purple. So, margarita pizza. Right now, pizza actually, if I'm sure absolutely nobody would be surprised to find out about this, was an Italian dish originally. But the margarita pizza is not your traditional one with pepperoni. But if you think about it, that's the one with the basil, the fresh mozzarella, fresh tomato on it, and it's nice and baked on the flat crust, if you will. The margarita pizza was actually named after the of Queen Margherita in Italy back in 1889. Um, And the reason why the toppings are the way they were is because Queen Margarita actually wanted to represent the Italian heritage, and so because the Italian flag had been around even at that time, the margarita pizza was invented, and it represents actually the history and the country of Italy. So hopefully you'll find that one a little interesting. So another food interesting. You're baking a carrot cake. Tell me about this carrot cake. I'm actually interested. I like carrot cake. It's delicious. And Mr. Lucas, while I wait on you to respond about this carrot cake, let me move on to another interesting food history fact. Right, potatoes were originally introduced in Europe. They came from South Africa, um, and they were actually originally feared in Europe. These potatoes were, and the reason why they were feared is because they came from a foreign land um, to the Europeans. Excuse me, and they when they first saw these potatoes, they actually believed that they were poisonous or that they ended up causing leprosy. And the reason they feared this so much was because that the potatoes, when they were pulled out of the ground, they're dirty. They look kind of, if you don't wash a potato, it kind of looks like it's rotting and decaying already. So that's why potatoes were so feared. And Lucas, I agree with you. I like cooking a lot too, which is why I started this channel. I wanted to be able to go ahead and do something kind of interesting and something new, kind of bring a different perspective to food. And granted, I may not be the most entertaining person on the planet, but hopefully entertaining enough for you. Okay, so moving on to the next food fact here, historical food fact, right? Ancient Romans were believed to actually have invented what we know as fast food. Okay, and that's interesting, right? They had this thing called thermopolia, which were street foods serving hot meals. Excuse me. And because all you had to do for it at the time was walk up, grab the food, and walk away, that was actually what was considered the origins of fast food. Lucas, you have a cooking channel too. That's awesome. I don't do a lot of cooking anymore on this channel. There's a couple things that I'll end up doing, um, but there's so many people cooking and doing recipes out there that I'm just going to choose to talk about food. I love food. I'm a well, I'm a foodie at heart. Put it that way. Okay. All right. So another historical fun food fact here is that ice cream was considered a royal treat, which is interesting because a lot of things that we know as food were not originally from the United States, of course. Um, Ice cream's origins actually be are traced all the way back to ancient China, um, but it actually ended up becoming popular in Europe. Ice cream did when Catherine de Medici brought the recipe to France. Um, and when she brought it back to France, it was actually, interestingly enough, considered a luxury for the royalty. So I think that's what's really interesting is that, it starts off in Asia, it comes to Europe, and then it's considered a luxury item. Not that you would anyone remember these history class stuff, but the Europe's really prized things from China, hence why the Silk Road was around. The spices, the seasonings, silks, golds, all that fun stuff. Ice cream came from all of that as well. Thank you so much for the love. I appreciate it. I'm seeing the hearts and all the emojis flying, so thank you very much. I appreciate it. All right, so we'll go on to the next one. I've only got two more interesting food history facts for you. Okay. Now, this is another one that I also did on a fun food trivia video, but I thought it was interesting enough to bring back, and it was the Caesar salad. The Caesar salad actually, while a lot of people would believe that it came from Italy because of the name Caesar, right? And if you look on the back of a bottle of Caesar's dressing, you'll see sometimes a character like says "Et tu Brute," talking about Julius Caesar and stuff. But it's not from any time period that would have a Caesar as a emperor. Now, Lucas, to answer your question, actually, that's a great question. I'll get to that here in a second. I'll finish up my thought on the Caesar salad, and then I'll get over to your question here about what type of food I make. Anyways, so the Caesar salad was actually made by an Italian restaurateur named Caesar Cardini in Tijuana, Mexico, 1924. And yeah, so that's how the origins came about. It was actually in Mexico that the Caesar salad was made. Caesar Cardini. Right? It's actually interesting when you hear about where these different foods come from in the United States. Well, actually across the world even. So now I'll answer your question, Lucas. The type of food that I make a little bit of everything. I have done food service for so long. I'm confident that I can make multiple types of cuisines. Now, I will never claim that what I make is authentic to any type of cuisine. And it's not due to the fact that I'm not from certain regions or that I don't possess a certain ethnicity, heritage, race, or anything. But sometimes it's due to where we get the ingredients from or where it's made, et cetera, et cetera. But my number one type of cuisine that I'll make is Southwest style. When I say Southwest, I mean Southwest of the United States. So we're talking, it's very chile heavy, it, anchos, poblanos. In fact, even though this isn't originally from the Southwest region, California, the Anaheim peppers get them from there. Um, I don't go too crazy with the heat because personally, I'm a fan of doing a little bit of heat with a lot of flavor because I believe in balancing out the flavors when it comes to doing Southwest style cooking. Where you may find a lot of people that tend to go ahead and do heat upon heat upon heat. So, not a huge fan of that. All right. Well, Lucas in the chat, please let me know what kind of food you'd like to cook. So, the last historical food fact that I have today for you, okay, is that interestingly enough, beer is older than bread. Evidence actually suggests that beer may have been brewed before bread was made, and bread as we know it today, right? We're not talking about uh, unleavened bread where they took flour and ground it down a little bit and turned it into what was kind of known as bread at the time, but we're talking about like bread. So ancient civilizations like Sumerians, brewed beer from grains um, long before that they developed baking techniques to create bread. Interestingly enough, if you look historically, back in the day, so one of the first civilizations, first cultures that did something similar to bread would have been ancient Hebrews or Israelis, as they would be known as today. And they did it out in the desert where um, historical texts would show that when they were nomadic at a certain point in time, that their bread would be what was considered unleavened, with which means without yeast. And so they would create their fires and then essentially cook their bread, even though it wasn't what we would know as bread today. And so that's why beer is actually considered to be older than bread officially, because of the yeasty component of it in the baking technique. Welcome back, Lucas. Didn't even know you disappeared. Uh, so to answer your question earlier, I'll go back to it. I don't know if you heard my response to your question earlier about what type of food I make, but Southwest style cuisine is what I make. Number one, I can make a lot of everything. Um, and then I do a play on an Italian style cuisine. I like to work with seafood a lot. I tend to do a lot of stuff with. Um, I do a lot of stuff with an American twist on Chinese food, and I don't mean I order takeout. I mean, although let's be honest, takeout can be delicious at times. Um, I do try and work with experimenting with Italian food, as I said. I don't get a lot into French style cuisine, but I can. One that I actually started experimenting a lot with recently is an Indian style cuisine. So uh, I will say I am not much of a baker. I'm not great with desserts. I do have a good recipe, and in fact, I can share that recipe today for you because I was on deck for things to be shared. Um, is the recipe, but yeah. So, what kind of desserts do you like to make? And while I'm waiting on the answer of what kind of desserts we like to make, um, one of the desserts I can make for sure is an easy key lime pie. Now, I'm not going to say traditional, but I will say it is an easy style key lime pie. And welcome to anyone that just popped up here. Um, cakes, cakes are delicious. I like cakes. I probably eat way too many of them, and I'm not talking about the little Debbie cakes, but I like cakes a lot. Now, key lime pie. I will give you guys my recipe for a key lime pie that I use. Uh, And I think, if you want to write this down, great. If not, you could come back to this stream later. You'll stay up for a while. So you can always refer back to the recipe here. So the key lime pie recipe that I go with, right? I take 6 eggs and separate out the yolks. I don't use the whites, I use the yolks. I take 1 can of sweetened condensed milk, a half cup of lime juice if I don't have key limes, or if I have key lime juice, a third of a cup, because key lime juice is a lot more tart than regular limes. So keep that in mind. Anyways, so I break apart the yolks. I add my lime juice, mix it together a little bit, and then I go ahead and add my sweetened condensed milk. What I do after that is I pour that mixture into a graham cracker crust mold. And with that graham cracker crust mold, I slide it right into the oven. Should be preheated. I bake it at 350 degrees currently. I bake it at 315 degrees for about 15 to 18 minutes. I try not to let it brown. I pull it out of the oven. I let it cool on the counter for about 10 to 15 minutes to make sure that everything sets. And then I stick it in the fridge for about 4 to 5 hours just to make sure it really cools down. So that is my easy recipe for key lime pie. Not much of a baker, but if you want to impress somebody who likes key lime pie, do that. After 4 or 5 hours to cool out, here, pull it out, cut yourself a slice, add some whipped cream if you want, or Cool Whip. Add some Cool Whip if you want. I think you would really enjoy that. Um, so chat is open. Please ask questions. Yes, please try it. I think it's delicious. But yes, chat is open. Please ask all the questions in the world. Funny thing is, one point in time when I first started doing the streaming, somebody asked me how to rebuild Killdozer. Now, I like telling this story because it's still kind of amusing. It's like the first question I ever got asked when I was doing these streaming Oreo cakes. I'd like a recipe for an Oreo cake. I definitely would give it a try. In fact, I'd probably make a video about it to be honest with you. And then also try and set Oreo cake. But so somebody asked me how to rebuild their Killdozer, and I know they were talking about BattleBots. I don't know if anyone here has ever seen BattleBots, but I thought it was kind of funny. Literally, the first question asked, I'm like, the Go2Chef, not BattleBots Master or anything like that. So I thought it was kind of hilarious. I didn't know what else to do with that because I'm like, well, can't tell you how to go ahead and rebuild Killdozer. All I know is put the wheel on the thing and add its little claw and its hammer, and you're good to go. It's a spiky hammer, if I remember correctly. Oh, snap. I hit the wrong button. My apologies. I was going to blast you in the face. I'm so sorry. So, anyways, yes. So, BattleBots. Yeah, I'm so sorry. I did not mean to hit the wrong button on that one. Welcome to getting blasted in the face with my title video. Oh my goodness. So sorry. If you do want to watch the whole thing, comment in the chat that you do. I'll gladly replay it for you. Not as a surprise, but just to let y'all see. Or you could watch the beginning of the stream after we're done here today. Um, all right. So, talking about some fun food trivia next. I think there might be something worth mentioning here because there's a lot of fun food trivia. It's actually the one video style that I think is really interesting because um, not a lot of people get into fun food trivia, or at least I call it fun food trivia. But I think I'm more of a nerd like that. So I every so often I'll reference back to what I was doing on a previous Fun Food Trivia video here live because maybe you didn't have a chance to see it. If you do want to see it, bam, you can subscribe or click my channel. Thank you. I appreciate the subscribe. Once I'm done here today, I'll come check out your channel as well. But yeah, some of the fun food trivia, right? So one of the fun food trivia's that I put out there. This was a good like many months ago. Um, did you know that cucumbers are technically a fruit and not a vegetable? They actually belong to the same family as melons and squash. And interestingly enough, all of that grows from the flower of the cucumber plant. So if you didn't know that, I hope that's some good, interesting food knowledge for you. So I am sure there is a million and a half things that we all find interesting with food. I will say one of the most interesting things that I ever did with food. Um, yep, tomatoes indeed are also a fruit. You are not wrong about that. Um, Actually, it's surprising because there's a lot of vegetables that could be classified as a fruit based on the definition of it has seeds or seeds on the inside. Um, like cucumbers could technically be considered a fruit, although I'm not sure that they get the designation of being a fruit, but I can see how they would be. So, one of the most interesting things I've ever done with food. Okay, well, I'll see you when you get back. One of the most interesting things that I ever did with food was um, in my time of being more in the commercial kitchens and being all chef like is being able to actually work around the world and working with other um, with chefs from different cultures too, right? Now I haven't visited a million and a half different countries, so I don't want to get it twisted that they're thinking, oh man, this guy's been around everywhere. No, no. Where I have been is very specific locations. I mean, I've been to Afghanistan, I've been to Kuwait, I've been to Germany, been to quite a few different countries, and at the same time, I've worked with a lot of different chefs that have come here into the United States. So um, I was able to actually start learning Indian cuisine from some Indian chefs that came in, and I'm talking from India. uh, I learned some. I learned a couple Egyptian dishes. I've got them written down the recipes. I can't remember the name from, them, but I got a little black book, and in this black book, I've got some recipes written down. Although I will say, one of the most interesting things I ever learned how to do um, was how to cut a bell pepper a specific way. And I actually have a video of this on my channel. I do not exactly remember when I made the video. It's been probably about a year at this point since I made it. I mean, granted, the channel's only about a year old, but I learned how to cut a bell pepper. I learned a lot of interesting cooking techniques actually from a Waffle House cook, a former Waffle House cook. So I know a lot of people like the Waffle House, but I will say I haven't eaten at the Waffle House, but I've learned some things from people that cooked at the Waffle House. So I think that's definitely worth mentioning that you might find interesting. So never think just because the person's graduated a culinary school or has their certificate from a Scoffier or something like that that they're an amazing chef. No, there's some good cooks with a lot of amazing technique because of experience out there. All right. So, another fun food trivia that I did one time. Um, is this on a video I did, I think, about a month or so ago. No, about 3 months ago. Now, did you know that the world's largest hamburger weighed a whopping 3,591 pounds? It was actually cooked in Michigan in 2017, and it took a huge team of chefs over 14 hours to prepare. Honestly, a burger that big, I know it breaks records. I'd like to hear your thoughts on whether you think that would actually be safe to eat at the end of all that, right? Because, if you're doing food service, they like to talk about the whole, um, they like to talk about, temperature danger zone and we're talking about temperature danger zone. We're talking about safe food handling and all that. A 3,591 pound burger. I don't know if it'd be safe to eat, but man, is that impressive to make. And to be honest, I don't think I ever would cook something up like that myself. I think that would just take way too long. I mean, considering it took a team of chefs in 2017 14 hours to prepare, I mean, that's a big burger. You probably could have fed the entire city of Detroit off of something like that. That's how big that burger is. All right. So we'd like to welcome back. Welcome back, Lucas. Now, here's another fun food trivia that I've had a video on too. Hot dogs. Did you know that hot dogs were not always known as hot dogs? Originally, they were known as Dachshund sausages, um, which is kind of an unfortunate name considering we don't eat dog here in the United States. Um, but they were originally called Dachshund sausages up until about World War One. And the reason they got their name changed from Dachshund sausages to hot dogs was because of anti-German sentiment from the United States. Um, it actually is believed that the term hot dog originated around this time at the New York Polo Grounds, and this was about World War One time. So we're talking about 1912 to about 1917. So we're talking just about a little over 100 years, or a little more than 100 years ago at this point. So there's another interesting thing for you. And actually, Lucas said something earlier in the chat today about how tomatoes are fruit. Here's another fun food fact, another one that I came across that I forgot that I did a video on. Avocados are actually considered to be berries. Um, and it's interesting because berries are considered, a single seeded fruit that has a fleshy pulp. Um, and when you think about it, how an avocado is, right? You got the one seed right there in the center. And thank you, I appreciate it. I'm glad you love this channel. I want awareness spread. I want more people to love this channel too. I think that'd be awesome if I had more people come and love this thing. So spread the word. Go2Chef on YouTube. Amazing stuff going on here. But yes, avocados are actually considered to be berries. Yeah, that was actually kind of interesting. I have a couple different facts about avocados that someone might actually find to be interesting. But um, in fact, here's one. I actually mentioned this on a stream a couple days ago. So to go in line with talking about avocados, they were actually known as alligator eggs or alligator testicles by ancient Aztecs. And when you think about it, you look at an avocado, kind of, it's got a very interesting shape to it. So yeah, that's why ancient Aztecs called it alligator eggs or alligator testicles. So there's another little avocado fact for you there. So here's another one. This one, I'm not a food snob, I promise. This is one I did another fun food trivia on. But I thought it was kind of interesting because if you go into the grocery store, your local grocery store, you may see a sushi counter, right? But I think the company running those are like Zensi or something like that, Tzenti or something along those lines. A lot of people associate sushi with raw fish. However, sushi does not actually mean raw fish in Japanese. The term sushi actually is referring to seasoned rice with various ingredients that could include raw fish. However, it also could include uh, cooked seafood. I mean, I'm sure you've seen some of those with shrimp on it, right? Imitation crab is another example. I mean, it is fish, but it's not fish. It's like a soy product with fish in it. Okay, and then of course you add your vegetables and toppings. And I mean, I'm sure you've seen it because those sushi rolls or sushi appetizers there, right? They got the fish on it, or it's rolled up like California roll style. So there you go. Actually, the term for raw fish in Japan is sashimi. So go figure that one out. And speaking of fish and Japanese, right? Here's another interesting tidbit, right? A lot of people will call squid calamari, okay? But calamari is indeed squid, but it's specifically fried squid. It's not just raw squid, okay? So squid is squid until it's fried. Once it's fried, it's calamari. There's another one for you. I unfortunately I have a list of these things, but I also can ramble some of this stuff off the top of my head. So uh, you know, sushi is delicious. Um, actually, Lucas just mentioned it. Sushi's his favorite. One of my favorite things for sushi, I like a good spicy roll. Okay, it's seaweed, it's the rice, it's the sesame seeds, black and white on it. Typically with cream cheese or tuna or imitation crab or something like that, and the spicy sriracha mayo on top. Absolutely delicious. It's actually one of my favorites. Uh, and actually, keeping in line with something I was talking about earlier with things being fruits or vegetables or whatnot. Um, Here's one I actually did a couple months ago on fun food trivia, which as I mentioned before, go check out my channel up above. After this, you'll see all of them. I think I'm up to 43 or 44 with the next one getting ready to post this Friday. Although I think I'm going to start posting a lot more often, so that way, I get to share this knowledge with everyone. A spicy tuna roll is delicious. I will give you that. Okay, so we were talking about fruits and vegetables earlier. Watermelon is actually considered both a fruit and a vegetable. So they are actually classified as fruit because they develop from a plant's ovary that contains seeds. But because they're very closely related to cucumbers, pumpkins, and squash, by a weird, not food but botanical, which is more indicative of plants in general. By a botanical definition, watermelons are also a vegetable. So tell me what y'all think about that one. I think that's an interesting food fact. All right, like I said, chat is open. Okay, now here's another one I'll go over here in a moment. Um, I'd like somebody to comment if you can on the chat. Where do you think cupcakes actually got their name? I think that'd be interesting. I'd like to see if anyone here could tell me where they think cupcakes got their name originally, because I think the answer will surprise you as to where cupcakes got their name. And before I answer that question, yes, Lucas, my favorite food, actually, it's also my signature dish. I do not believe I've videoed this up because it's not done in the way you would see it at an Italian restaurant, but it's um, chicken piccata. I grew up with it, making it with turkey, but you can make it with turkey. It actually is pretty good with turkey, but chicken piccata is actually my favorite. And that's also my signature dish. It's actually funny enough. That was the first dish I ever cooked on my own. and France. Actually, solid guess on that. And actually, I can't tell you the original location of where cupcakes got their name. So, cupcakes actually were originally baked in small clay pots. And this was done back in the 19th century. So, if you think of 19th century, go all the way back. We're talking 1800s at this point. Okay. The term cupcake actually originated because the measurement of ingredients used in early recipes for cupcakes were measured by the cupful. So that's how they got their name. It's because their ingredients were measured by the cupful, not because they're actually shaped like a little cup. Fun little fact about cupcakes. Did you know cupcakes are, as they are known today, are actually intended to be eaten like a sandwich? So what you're supposed to do with it is tear off the bottom of a cupcake, place it on top of the frosting, and then eat the whole thing like a sandwich. Um, I know a lot of people tend to go with eating the frosting or eating the cupcake first. No, I don't eat it like a sandwich. I tear off the bottom, eat the bottom, and then I eat the top of the frosting on it. And that's just because I am a strange individual when I do stuff like that. Um, but yes, so bam, two little facts about cupcakes for you. But France was indeed a good guess. All right. So I'm not gonna take too much more time for everyone here today, but I would like to um, you know, leave this open for a moment while I ramble on about more food stuff and some more stories and whatnot. If you're interested in hearing about them, um, for some questions and answers, Lucas, I really appreciate you, being interactive and engaging in this conversation today. It's amazing. I'm looking forward to coming checking out your stuff. Eat the icing and cake it by itself. Yeah, I'm a glutton. I have done that myself too. So, all right, that's not a bad way to do it. I don't have a big enough eye. I make kind of a mess. I don't have a huge mouth for stuff like that. But yeah, that's not a bad way of eating a cupcake. Although, when you're eating a cupcake, is there really a wrong way to eating a cupcake? Like, let's be real with ourselves for a moment. All right, so I mean, I've shared some stories today. I think I've shared some interesting stuff that hopefully everyone here has found somewhat interesting, right? So I'm going to go ahead and recap real quick before I hop off here in a moment, right? So, just to recap, the 10 intriguing food history facts that I talked about today is that where ketchup originally was a fish sauce. The sandwich was named after John Montague, the Earl of Sandwich. Um, Chocolate was originally used by ancient Aztecs as a form of currency. Carrots were originally purple and were cultivated originally in Afghanistan, and brought over to Europe and then cultivated into the orange variant that we know because of the Dutch celebrating the House of Orange Nassau. The Margarita pizza was named after Queen Margherita of Italy in 1889, and the reason the ingredients were chosen were to represent Italy and its culture. Um, that potatoes were originally feared in Europe. That's another one. Europeans thought they were poisonous or caused leprosy because potatoes were introduced to them from South Africa. Although, as I mentioned earlier, that is kind of understandable why. Ancient Romans are to be believed as having invented fast food because they were recordedly speaking the originators of street style food where people can just walk up, order food, grab it, and walk away. Another one I covered, number 8 on the list, was ice cream was originally a royal treat. Ice cream originated in China, and Catherine de Medici brought it over to France, and then it was considered a luxury for the royal. The Caesar salad is not from Italy, but actually originated by a man named Caesar Cardini in Tijuana, Mexico in 1924. And lastly, the last fun food history thing that I covered today was that beer is in fact older than bread. Um, And that's bread as we know it when they're talking bread, like the yeast being in the bread, not unleavened little wheat cakes that people used to eat. So that's a recap on all the the 10 food historical facts that I talked about today. And welcome to everybody that recently joined into the live stream. Yeah, I hope you're here for a good time. The floor is currently open with some with the chat. Hopefully, you'd like to do some Q&A with it because I like answering questions. My man Luke is here. Man, he's been on. He's been on it. He's been awesome. I will say currently I do not have uh, helpful. Yes, helpful, maybe interesting, definitely. Um, but I don't have a per se schedule perfected yet for doing streams. Right now, for the next couple weeks, I'm able to do it during the middle of the day. Typically, I'll be trying to do it Tuesdays and Saturdays, but I'm streaming on YouTube, so I'm not sure how to necessarily put out a schedule for that. Now, if this was like Twitch or something, I can go ahead and do that, but it's not. Um, then one of the other things I'm looking forward to doing, hopefully in the not too near future, is trying to set up a Patreon because support is always appreciated. In the fact that I'm working on trying to build some content to be able to put on there, so that way it's not just another dude asking for a cup of coffee without giving you anything. I want to have actually give you value if you do decide to participate and help the cause of this channel grow, because I'd love to get this channel to grow. So that's stuff that's in the shoot. It's being worked on at the moment, and we're hoping. I'm hoping here to have good things done with it. Um, so give it like another minute here. Any more questions of the day before I end this stream? I'm sure somebody's got something somewhere. Perfect. Thank you. Yes. Notifications are amazing. So, all right. Well, Lucas, amazing. Thank you. Thank you for being engaged today. Everyone that showed up and watched today, even though I know there's people hopped on, hopped off. I want to thank them for showing up and watching, and anyone who actually watches this after the fact that I get done with the streaming. I'll go. I appreciate that too. And so what I'm going to go ahead and do is, I blasted you in the face earlier in the middle of the stream with it. I'm going to go ahead and close out this stream with my title video, and enjoy it. And as always, subscribe and go impress others.